Hi, everybody. I'm Marie Bowser. I'm a licensed acupuncturist and coach based in Albany, California. And I'm here today with my friend Tina Kopko, who is a marriage and family therapist and grief recovery specialist. And we're talking today about the concept of grief. I especially wanted to do this because of the season we're in right now. From a Chinese medicine perspective, we're in the season of the metal element, whose emotion is grief. And so you may start to be tapping into this sense of, um, the loss of the summer, the grieving of, oh, the summer's over, and oh, wasn't that so fun? And the disappointment of that ending. It's also related to a certain time of life as we're aging, as we start to look back on our life and think about the things not accomplished, the life not quite lived up to expectations. So this metal element concept is about assessment, it's about loss, it's about grieving. And so for some of us, we might feel that more acutely in the autumn. And so I wanted to make sure that you felt supported and had an extra resource for dealing with that, which is why we're here today with Tina. Tina, what do you notice about grief and seasons?
Well, first of all, thank you so much for having me with you today. I'm excited to have this conversation and share it with our audience. What I notice about this time of year is that a lot of people are usually anticipating holidays. And for some people, those aren't happy occasions. For some people, they're approaching, a family situation that's not the family of their dreams. It's a conflictual or contentious relationship, or it's just stressful. And so they might have some grief about the fact that this is not a completely joyous time of year for them. Some other people are also encountering the first Thanksgiving, the first Christmas, the first Rosh Hashanah, the first Hanukkah, since a loved one has died. And so they're anticipating what this is going to be like without that person. And just looking forward and anticipating some of these things that you might be dealing with can often stir up feelings of grief from either recent losses or sometimes even losses that have happened long ago. One of my losses happened the day I was born. So I
Mm.
was adopted. And so this has just been a part of my life, that being with family isn't quite my whole family. And so there's things missing. I think also this time of year, people tend to look back on the year and start to feel the pressure of, did they accomplish their goals? Are they behind? They're comparing themselves to other people. And so it can be a really challenging time of year for a lot of people, at an emotional, mental level.
And it's interesting. I often hear you talk, and you kind of mentioned this now, is this sense of like grieving what hasn't happened.
Yeah.
And I get this sense that grief doesn't always look the way we think it does, or the way that maybe popular culture has told us it
Yeah.
looks. Can you share more about your understanding of grief and what causes it and how it manifests?
Absolutely. Thank you for asking.
Mm-hmm.
Um, we have a commonly shared kind of trope. Even if underneath people know this isn't quite true, it comes out in our conversation all the time, especially when it comes to mental health or just health in general, that if you're dealing with grief, then someone must have died. Or if someone didn't die, then it wouldn't be grief that you're feeling. And these are just plain incorrect. Grief can actually be generated from so many other types of losses, um, divorce, moving, a change in your financial standing, a change in your health abilities. Even as something as simple as changing a job and having like your commute double in time can cause feelings of grief that look like anger, depression, anxiety. Sometimes around the holidays, it might look like isolation. Someone kind of just disappears for a while. Maybe it's around an anniversary of the loss of someone. And when we haven't been able to manifest what it is we've been working toward, for me, sometimes for decades, we can often struggle in feelings of failure and, want to go to the doctor and ask, is this depression? What we're not looking at is what's called grief. I'm grieving the loss of something that either I've been working for and hasn't arrived, or that I had for my whole life and now it's gone, or they're gone and I don't know what to do with myself. Um, or it's just, I'm in an unfamiliar, like, kind of stage of my life where nothing is as I expected it to be. This isn't what I planned. This isn't what I've been working toward. And the feelings that go along with that, while they're not feelings that we tend to talk about a lot in our society, just out socially with friends or family, they're absolutely at work inside of us. And so that's why these other emotions can sometimes look like what's on the outside, can also look like addictive behaviors,
Mm.
especially around the holidays when we have all these temptations to drink more and eat more and celebrate. It's a really easy way to escape some of those emotions that we're feeling.
Mm. Yeah. What if um what if someone's already seeing a therapist, or they're in a therapy group, or a coaching group, or individual coaching relationship? Does someone need to can they do both? Can they work with you in the grief recovery method? Do they need to do one or the other? Are they at cross purposes with each other? How does that work when someone already has that established relationship?
That's a really good question, because I actually do field that question from people who call. And what's really beautiful about this method in particular is that it's an action-based program. It's more like a workshop. It's not like therapy, although it is therapeutic. And we spend 8 weeks together reading from the handbook, the Grief Recovery Handbook by John James and Russell Friedman. And we take a step each week together. We're also at the same time learning how to be open and non-judgmental, non-advice giving listeners for each other. And so what we're really learning is a set of tools that then we can apply to all these different areas in our life. So what I find usually is that a lot of therapists have not had extensive training in grief. I know when I went to under or grad school, I took one course, a very brief course on grief and loss and end of life issues and aging. It was all part of the same umbrella topic. But once that was over, I really had no specialized tools or skills or experience or training in how to deal with different types of grief. So this is a tool that anyone can use with their therapist, outside their therapist, and it can often um, make therapy more effective. So what that means to me is that some people will come in and say, I don't know what has been going wrong, but I've been in therapy for years and something key is not changing. There's something really important that I'm not figuring out the source of. A lot of times when we take the lens of looking at grief throughout your life, loss throughout your life, it uncovers some of those things that have been sticking up the gears and making therapy kind of not take root.
Hmm.
So they learn how to identify what's been causing them grief, um, say what we call our recovery components, apologies, forgivenesses, and other significant emotional statements that they need to say. And then they say goodbye to what's been causing them pain. So taking that tool with them into the issues that they're working on in therapy is often an additional highlight, a supplement to what they're working on with their therapist. And it can actually get some things out of the way that have been preventing therapy from working.
Oh, it sounds like it supercharges therapy essentially.
Yeah, it definitely can.
Hmm. And is it skills that they take with them afterward? They basically have this as like a life
Yep.
skill once
Yep.
they're complete with the program.
Yep. Just like something like active listening, where you learn how to repeat back to someone what you heard them say, and then they get to correct you. This is the same thing. It's a skill that you learn. There's steps that you take. And once you know those steps, you can use it on anything that you suspect might have been causing grief or loss for you,
Nice.
going back your whole life, and out here in California, maybe in previous lives.
I like that. Um, well, tell me, it sounds very powerful. I know you've shared how powerful it's been for you. Would you be open to sharing a little bit about your story and how you came into this work so that people can hear uh, how powerful it is?
Yeah, absolutely. I'd be happy to share that. I'll tell you the short version because there's definitely like a 2-day version of that story. But the short version is that, like I said, I've had a loss ever since the day I was born, because I was adopted. Now I had wonderful parents, adopted parents. They did a great job, and I love them, and I'm pretty happy with the job they did and my family. But at the same time, um, I also lost a connection to my birth mother, my birth parents, that I didn't know at a cognitive level. Um, and when I did start to understand the idea that I was adopted, my parents always talked about it openly. It was always a positive thing. We never focused on what I lost. And so there was always this kind of gaping hole in my insides, in my heart, feeling like there's something missing. There's somewhere I belong that's different than this place. Like these aren't my people. So that's one of the things that I've worked on using the grief recovery method. But I've also worked on, I had a stretch of time between 2009 and 2011 that I had 8 major losses in my life. And I was pretty much a shadow of a person walking through life kind of on zombie mode. And I knew that that was not how I wanted to live the rest of my life, but I just didn't know what else to do about it. I really had my fill of loss. So much so that I didn't want to be in a relationship. I didn't want another pet. I didn't want to go after things that I might lose or fail at because I just didn't have the bandwidth or the capacity to handle one more loss. And my heart was broken. I mean, I just had no joy in my life. So I found the grief recovery method both as a way to um, support myself after having done some just kind of regular grief support groups, which were really wonderful and helpful. But I knew I needed to do some more healing, and also as a way to specialize in something that I cared about in my private practice. So I ended up finding the grief recovery method, and from everything that they were saying, the way that they were talking, even the way that they did their sales pitch, it was just so aligned with who I am as a person and how I think about emotions and what my lived experience was with my own emotions, um, that I just had to go check it out. And so I really did it for me, first off. And now I get to do it for other people, bring it to other people and help them learn the tools of healing. And I have to say that my life through not only grief recovery method, but also some other personal work that I've done, feels so much more light and joyful and full of possibility. I feel like the weight of potential losses in the future isn't too much for me to bear. I have my heart open again. Um, and I'm excited about like my next dream for the next phase of my life. I was able to grieve kind of some things that didn't come true for me, some dreams that I had had in my head for decades that just never came true. And I was able to grieve, say goodbye, let them go, and open my heart up for a next dream, a more updated, more current version of what the dream of, who Tina Kopko is in the world. So this has been really transformational for me, and I'm so passionate about talking to other people about how to learn how to use this tool, put it in their tool belt, and have it with them for the rest of their life.
It sounds very transformative, very powerful.
Yeah, it really is.
You do groups in the Bay Area. Is that true?
Yeah, so I have I have I have at least three, if not four, groups on Monday nights in North Oakland, California. That's in the East Bay of San Francisco Bay Area. I'm also available online if you don't live in the Bay Area and you just love Marie and you follow her because you love her work. Um, and my next group starts in January. It's in person, and we meet for 8 weeks and we go through the method and we learn how to be a heart with ears for other grievers and
Right.
how to let go and say goodbye what we've lost and what we've been grieving.
And so you're going to provide me with a Facebook group or group,
Yeah.
Facebook page, and your website, and that'll be in the newsletter for people to track you down. And just to be clear, people can do group work with you, or they can do individual work with you through this process. And the folks who are doing individual work can do it remotely.
Exactly, in person or remotely. So a lot of possibility. And I love talking to people about um, if if you really want to be in person, I'll help you find someone in your geographic area. We have a worldwide directory of specialists who are all trained the same way I've been and would love to help you recover. So
Wow.
thanks for sharing and helping me get the word out.
Yeah, thanks for taking the time to share information with my community, and just to support people in having a really smooth autumn and, moving into the
Yeah.
holiday season.
And I assume your newsletter is going to be filled with tips on ways to support ourselves through the holiday season and this season of grieving.
There will be upcoming tips en route in future newsletters, if not in
Awesome.
this one. Yeah.
Okay, great. Look forward to reading it.
Good. Well, thank you, Tina. And thanks everybody for watching. I hope that you have a really lovely, graceful autumn and holiday season. And please do reach out to either one of us if you feel that you need some support. Have a great week.
Thanks, Marie.
Bye, Tina.
Bye.